Welcome back to navydoc. Today we step into a realm you likely thought only existed in science fiction. Space is no longer the playground of billionaires or tourists. For military superpowers, this is the ultimate strategic high ground. The US, Russia, and China are locked in a silent but ferocious arms race for orbital supremacy. The concept of the gray zone, where hostile actions occur below the threshold of war, has been erased. We are now witnessing direct strategic competition. If the 20th century was defined by who controlled the oceans, the 21st century will be decided by who controls the Lagrange points and low Earth orbit. The latest intelligence indicates the United States is preparing to deploy a game-changing asset: directed energy systems in space. The advent of space-based laser weaponry marks a new era of warfare for the United States Space Force. This isn't just an equipment upgrade, it is a revolution in modern combat. Let's breach the command center to decode this superweapon and how it shapes the global balance of power. The United States Space Force is the newest and independent branch of the U.S. military. Originating from Air Force Space Command, active since 1982, this unit spun off to become a distinct warfighting service in December 2019. This transition, executed under President Donald Trump, reflects an undeniable reality. Space is a bona fide warfighting domain. Theoretically, the goal is deterrence. Practically, the U.S. is preparing for direct extra-atmospheric conflict scenarios. By 2026, the USSF has undergone a spectacular structural metamorphosis. No longer the fledgling youngest sibling, it now operates as a full combatant command model with three main pillars. Space Operations Command handles warfighting, Space Systems Command handles procurement, and Space Training and Readiness Command. Specifically, the activation and steady operation of specialized Delta units, like Delta 9 and Delta 18, demonstrate a shift from a ground support mindset to an independent warfighting mindset. Despite holding a vital role, the USSF remains the leanest branch, with approximately 6,434 Guardians and 77 spacecraft. This figure seems modest next to the U.S. Air Force, a force boasting over 5,000 aircraft and 46 intercontinental ballistic missiles. However, power doesn't lie in personnel numbers, but in technology. Starting with a $2 billion budget, funding has skyrocketed to a record $30 billion in fiscal year 2025, and is projected to hit $33.7 billion by 2026. This is the fastest budget growth in U.S. military history. Every dollar isn't just paying salaries, it's being transmuted into AI algorithms, electronic warfare suites, and next-generation satellite constellations. These massive resources sustain the nervous system of the American military: GPS, military satellite communications, and early warning missile networks. Every combat operation on the ground depends on these eyes in the sky. One of the biggest strategic shifts in the last 2 years is the deployment of the Proliferated Warfighter space architecture. Previously, the U.S. relied on massive, expensive satellites, big, juicy targets, vulnerable to enemy missiles. Now, under the Space Development Agency, the Pentagon has launched hundreds of small satellites into low Earth orbit, creating a dense mesh network linked by optical lasers. If the enemy shoots down 10 satellites, the system automatically reroutes data through 100 others in milliseconds, rendering the attack strategically and economically futile. Among top-secret assets, the Boeing X-37B unmanned spaceplane is the crown jewel. A reusable orbital test vehicle, the X-37B represents the pinnacle of aerospace engineering and mysterious long-duration deployment capabilities. In late 2025, the X-37B's OTV-7 mission, launched via Falcon Heavy in December 2023, concluded after nearly 900 days of covert operation. What worries Russian and Chinese intelligence most is its unprecedented maneuverability. For the first time, the X-37B executed aerobraking maneuvers, skimming the atmosphere to alter its orbit without expending massive fuel reserves. This technique allows the craft to vanish from predicted orbital paths and reappear unexpectedly elsewhere. Experts believe OTV-7 carried experimental electronic warfare payloads and possibly deployed sub-satellites to inspect adversary assets from blind angles undetectable by ground radar. The global space economy is projected to hit the $1 trillion mark in the next 2 decades. Protecting orbital trade routes is as critical as the U.S. Navy protecting freedom of navigation on the high seas. In March 2020, the USSF asserted its power by launching a military communications satellite aboard an Atlas V. By 2021, the Guardians successfully executed a tactically responsive launch mission, injecting a satellite into low Earth orbit at record speed. This mission proved America's flexible response capability, deploying assets in hours instead of months. Entering 2026, this concept has evolved into the Victus Nox and Victus Haze programs. During the Victus Haze exercise in 2025, the Space Force received orders, assembled the rocket, integrated the satellite, and launched successfully within 24 hours of identifying a simulated threat. The scenario played out like this. An unknown satellite approaches a U.S. asset. Immediately, an Electron or Alpha rocket is erected on the pad. The Jackal interceptor satellite launches, using powerful thrusters to chase down and reverse inspect the intruder. The U.S. proved it can replace any downed satellite faster than the enemy can reload their missiles. This is tactically responsive space, the key to deterrence in the new era. This is a direct answer to the escalating satellite warfare from geopolitical competitors. The threat is real. In 2013, China launched the experimental satellite Xi'an. Under the guise of scientific research, Xi'an executed dangerous proximity maneuvers, tailing a smaller satellite with shocking precision. AGI sensors recorded this seismic event. The target satellite disappeared from radar, then reappeared in a different location. This wasn't a glitch, it was a simulated attack. The truth was exposed. Xi'an was equipped with a robotic arm, capable of grappling and dragging a target out of its operational orbit. This is the definition of a counterspace weapon, designed to neutralize or destroy the adversary's eyes. By 2025, this technology evolved into the Shijian-21 satellite. In a documented event, SJ-21 approached a defunct Beidou satellite in geostationary orbit, clamped onto it with a robotic arm, and towed it into a graveyard orbit 3,000 kilometers away. Although Beijing calls it space debris removal, the Pentagon understands. If it can grab a dead satellite, it can snap the solar panels or attach a listening device to a billion-dollar American SBIRS early warning satellite. Beijing insists this is space debris mitigation technology. However, Western military strategists see a different reality: an orbital assassin, ready to blind enemy command systems the moment conflict erupts. Even more dangerous is the emergence of the reusable Shenlong spaceplane. During its third mission spanning 2024 to 2025, Shenlong released 6 mysterious objects into orbit. These objects later broadcast strange radio signals, indicating they weren't debris but independent electronic warfare devices. Shenlong is morphing into a mini-carrier in space, capable of deploying kamikaze satellites from multiple vectors. The infrastructure of advanced nations doesn't lie on the ground. It floats in a vacuum. GPS and telecommunications satellites don't just serve civilians. They are the backbone of positioning and command for every modern military campaign. The enemy knows this well. Dual-use satellites, serving both meteorology and intelligence gathering, have turned Earth's orbit into a strategic Achilles heel. For military powers, neutralizing them is a top priority. This reality triggered the ASAT era, anti-satellite weapon systems. The US, China, Russia, and India have all demonstrated kinetic interception capabilities, ready to destroy enemy assets to protect national interests. ASAT isn't just defensive. They are force multipliers, capable of intercepting ballistic missiles and executing asymmetric retaliation against technologically superior opponents. In the early 2000s, the Pentagon warned of a space Pearl Harbor scenario. A preemptive strike on satellite systems could leave the U.S. military completely blind, leveling military superiority in an instant. In January 2007, Beijing realized that fear. An SC-19 ballistic missile, equipped with a kinetic kill vehicle, launched from mainland China to destroy the FY-1C weather satellite at an altitude of over 530 miles. This was a modified version of the DF-21 medium-range ballistic missile. The collision created a massive debris cloud, proving China possesses the capability to precisely strike any target in low Earth orbit. Thousands of fragments from that explosion still exist in 2026, creating a permanent minefield, threatening the International Space Station and commercial constellations. This event taught the world a costly lesson about Kessler syndrome. Kinetic warfare in space is collective suicide, as debris fields will trap humanity on the ground. Russia responded with cold sophistication. In 2014, they deployed Cosmos 2499. On radar, it looked like harmless space junk, but suddenly activated thrusters and executed complex maneuvers to close in on targets. Dubbed kamikaze satellites by intelligence circles, these silent assassins move at 17,500 miles per hour. They are perfectly camouflaged, ready to ram targets or disable them from close range. But tensions truly spiked in February 2024, when U.S. intelligence declassified information regarding Russia's development of a nuclear anti-satellite weapon, designated Cosmos 2553. Unlike a conventional bomb dropped on Earth, this device is designed to detonate in orbit. The explosion wouldn't create a shockwave, but a massive electromagnetic storm and an artificial radiation belt lasting for months. This storm would fry the electronics of thousands of satellites within range, from the Starlink network to keyhole spy satellites, turning low Earth orbit into a technological dead zone. Although not yet activated, the existence of Cosmos 2553 is a sword of Damocles hanging over the global economy. In 2019, Russia escalated with Matryoshka tactics, a mother satellite deploying smaller attack vehicles to shadow U.S. assets. This provocative act was a direct catalyst for the establishment of the U.S. Space Force. Most recently, in May 2024, Russia launched Cosmos 2576 from Plesetsk Cosmodrome. This satellite was injected into the same orbital plane as USA 314, a reconnaissance satellite of the National Reconnaissance Office. For the past 2 years, Cosmos 2576 has played a game of cat and mouse, constantly adjusting its orbit to tail USA 314, acting as an inspector satellite ready to strike on command. With 1,897 active satellites, compared to China's 412 and Russia's 176, the United States possesses the sharpest global eyes. Updated to early 2026, thanks to the explosion of the private sector, the total U.S. satellite count has exceeded 7,000, largely driven by the Starlink constellation and the militarized Starshield version. But simultaneously, this is the biggest and most vulnerable target in the sky. Recognizing these orbital Achilles heels, the Pentagon mobilized a $304 million budget to reinforce the space defense perimeter. The strategic focus has shifted to directed energy weapons, from neutral particle beams to high-energy lasers. The U.S. has pursued this technology for decades, but recent tests in the Persian Gulf have truly changed the game. A tactical laser system incinerated targets at sea and in the air at the speed of light, marking the end of the experimental era. Israel's Iron Beam system, developed with U.S. support and successfully tested during the 2024 to 2025 conflicts, provided invaluable real-world data on laser interception of fast-moving aerial targets. The race now is to integrate this firepower onto mobile platforms to neutralize enemy satellites. The U.S. Air Force is leading with the $155 million SHIELD program, comprising the Lance system and a laser pod developed by Boeing. By 2026, Lockheed Martin's Lance program achieved a breakthrough in size-to-power ratio. The biggest challenge isn't generating the laser beam, but controlling heat and atmospheric turbulence. When the beam passes through air, it heats the path, creating a thermal lens that scatters the energy. To overcome this, the US applied adaptive optics technology borrowed from astronomy. This system uses AI to measure atmospheric distortion and adjust deformable mirrors thousands of times per second, keeping the beam lethally focused on a target hundreds of kilometers away. The military craves this technology for its absolute tactical advantage: instantaneous engagement, surgical precision, and a cost per shot that is virtually zero. As long as the generator runs, the magazine is infinite. Although the ground test version is still bulky, the ultimate goal is to miniaturize the system into an aerodynamic pod. It will be tested on the F-15 Eagle before integration onto F-35 Lightning II stealth fighters and the NGAD 6th generation fighter. Strategic documents in 2026 have begun referencing the concept of air-to-space laser, where high-altitude fighters can fire lasers to dazzle enemy spy satellites passing overhead. This is a soft kill attack, neutralizing without physical destruction. If successful, this will be a revolution in air combat. The shield system is designed as an active defense, ready to intercept and destroy incoming air-to-air missiles at supersonic speeds. The threat from Russia's long-range 48N6 and R-37 missiles is existential. They are capable of destroying AWACS and tanker aircraft from over 200 nautical miles, well beyond the reach of traditional defensive systems. When modern aircraft evasion probability against missiles drops below 30%, lasers become the last line of defense. A precise energy beam can melt sensitive optical guidance seekers or detonate the enemy warhead in mid-air. However, energy weapons aren't limited to lasers. Another invisible assassin being heavily deployed is high-power microwave weaponry. Systems like Thor or Mjolnir are capable of projecting wide-area microwave beams. If a laser is a sniper rifle, HPM is an electromagnetic shotgun. It can fry the circuits of an entire drone swarm or small satellite cluster simultaneously, without needing to target each one individually. This is the ultimate weapon against swarm tactics in space. Furthermore, the United States Space Force has declared full operational capability for the Meadowlands mobile jamming system by 2026. These truck-mounted parabolic dishes blast concentrated radio frequency energy, overloading enemy satellite downlinks and creating cones of silence across the battlefield. Modern warfare is changing shape. Space is no longer a buffer zone. It is the primary theater. To survive, next-generation satellites must be equipped with stealth, high maneuverability, and active defensive firepower. The Pentagon is deploying a proliferated architecture with a network of 1,300 satellites. This strategy creates an orbital swarm. Even if a segment is destroyed, the system maintains global command and control capabilities. On the offensive front, the destination is satellite-mounted lasers, weapons capable of blinding sensors and destroying enemy hardware. However, putting this firepower into space is a brutal physics problem. The biggest challenge is power. Generating and sustaining the massive current needed to feed high-intensity beams in a vacuum requires complex reactors, turning space logistics into a costly nightmare. To solve this, DARPA and NASA are restarting the Nuclear Thermal Engine program with Project Draco, scheduled for a test flight in 2027. Nuclear engines will provide an abundant power source 3 times more efficient than chemical propulsion, enough to feed high-power laser systems and allow for continuous satellite maneuvering. Furthermore, optical laws in a vacuum are distinct. With no air to scatter light, the laser beam becomes invisible, making aiming extremely difficult. The beam also suffers from energy divergence when fired over long distances. When the target is moving at 17,500 miles per hour, the locking system must achieve absolute precision. A margin of error of a fraction of a millisecond means total failure. This is where artificial intelligence proves indispensable. Project Maven, originally used for drone image analysis, has been upgraded to predict satellite trajectories. By 2026, AI algorithms can calculate thousands of gravitational perturbation variables to lock the laser with millimeter accuracy, faster than any human reflex. In the silence of the cosmos, the race to control the ultimate high ground has never truly ended. Whoever holds the sky will dictate the destiny of the world. What do you think about the future of space warfare? Are we about to witness real-life Star Wars battles? Leave your opinions in the comments below. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next military secret. Thank you, and see you next time.